I'm able to live rent-free with my parents. They're in that socioeconomic status that they do not need their kids to help provide for them. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Reni. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. On this channel, I make content around financial literacy, career development, and lifestyle. So if any of those topics are something that interests you, feel free to hit that subscribe button down here. And whether you are new or returning, feel free to hit that like button as well because it really does help my channel grow. So as you can tell by the title today's video is a little bit different than what I normally do, but this video is in an effort to be more transparent and open with you guys as my audience. So I am going to be telling you about all the privileges that have allowed me to come to the place that I am today. And you may be thinking, okay, Reni, this is such a random video, like where did all this come from? But the reason that I'm doing this video is because I just finished a book. As you know, if you've been watching for a little bit, or if you follow me on Instagram, I'm trying to read 52 books this year and one book per week. And my second book of this year was Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. I have read other books by Malcolm Gladwell, but I'd never read this one, and I don't know why it took me so long, but it was a great book. And the book basically analyzed the lives of the remarkable. So people who are uber successful, it analyzed their lives and saw how they actually got to the place that they are. And I was thinking, okay, this is just like another book. It's going to be telling me why these outliers are the way they are, basically saying, oh, they did X, Y, Z, and now they're successful. But it was completely different than that. They went in depth about like the opportunities that have made them successful. And Malcolm's thought is basically that success is the result of cumulative advantages. And upon reading this book, it made me reflect on my life and all of the advantages that I have in my life and the things that have brought me to the place that I am today. I feel like a lot of people may look at me and be like, oh my gosh, she's 25. She's done so much. She has a house. She's done this by this age. She's so successful, X, Y, Z. And they may compare themselves to me, but I feel like they don't really know the backstory of how I got to where I am. So I wanted to basically outline it and show you like why I am where I am. Not that I'm uber successful, but like, so I'm basically going to show you all the things in my life relating to the book that allow me to be where I am today, and then also give a few examples about the book. If you like book reviews and things like that, I have a whole playlist of book reviews, so you can watch it up here. And yeah, let's get into the video. I also want to emphasize that this is not to brag or anything. This is literally trying to tell you guys not to compare yourself to anybody because you don't know the advantages that went into them getting to the place they are. One thing Malcolm says in the book is that the people who are successful are where they are because they have more opportunities. The rich people get more tax breaks. The smartest kids in class get the best teachers, and it just builds cumulative advantage from there. I also want to say I have a lot of notes as I was reading this book, and I wrote them all down on my laptop. So if you see me looking down here, that's why. So let's get into this video. So the first advantage that I have is my birthplace. If you don't know, I was born in the United Kingdom. So I was born in London, England. And just being born in a country that is pretty stable economically, that there are lots of opportunities, that you can basically be whatever you want, is a huge advantage over someone who was born in less fortunate circumstances. And of course, this has nothing to do with anything that I did. I was literally just, my parents gave birth to me there, and that's what happened. Along with that, I was raised in Canada for like the majority of my life. So when I turned 4 years old, I moved to Canada. And I would say, again, that is a huge advantage, especially coming to Canada at the time I did, when Canada was so much smaller than it is now. So there were a lot of people who were moving there in search of new opportunities. My parents moved at a great time because at that time they were searching for people who were skilled workers. Like, it was a perfect time to move here. And I'm so grateful to have been raised in this country as well. So if I compare my situation to people who were born in other countries, somewhere like, I'm not going to name any countries because I don't want to get canceled, but if I were born in in another country, my life could have been completely different. Or not could have been, it would have been completely different. So I was afforded a great privilege simply by being born in England and moving to Canada when I was 4 years old. Also, if you just think about those countries in general, Canada and England, having both of those passports, or even just one of those passports, is a huge, huge, huge privilege that, again, a lot of us take for granted. I am able to move around so easily. Like it's like I don't have to apply for visas. For a lot of countries, it's pretty easy to move around and see the world when you have this passport. And this helps me in a lot of ways, which I'll get to in the rest of the video. If I compare this to someone who is in Nigeria, I believe in Nigeria, if you have a Nigerian passport, you can get to about 40 to 60, I can't remember, countries visa free. So that is a huge difference compared to, I think it's our 100 and something. Canadians can go to 100 plus countries visa free, whereas Nigerians can only go to 40 to 60 countries visa free. So that's a huge difference in the access to opportunities you get just from the place you were born. And one last thing on that point, our governments in Canada work to an extent. The country that I'll compare a lot of things to is probably Nigeria, just because Nigeria, our leaders are not the best. So not the Canadian leaders are perfect, but our country works and our governments have a little bit of sense, a little slightly, compared to a lot of other countries. So that is also a perk as well. So the real reason that I bring up my birthplace is you may not think that it is a huge example of like, something that gives you a big advantage, but it really does. And in the book, Malcolm he looked at how many, I think, millionaires or the richest people in the world, and most of them are born in the States. And, that just shows you that these lands of opportunity do provide you with the opportunity to be more successful later down the line. Next, we'll go into culture. So when we think about culture, we think of the systems that raised us and the culture that we grew up in. So I was raised in a Nigerian household, which my parents are pretty chill Nigerian parents, but still they are Nigerian. And there is a reason why Nigerians across the world are successful. Not trying to say, oh, Nigerians are the best people ever, but like, it's a known fact that Nigerians are extremely successful no matter in a lot of countries across the world. And it's because of the culture that we grew up in. It's kind of like a hustle culture, you must strive for greatness no matter what. Nigeria does not carry last. Like we are always striving for greatness. And I would say that really was pushed onto me as a child, even like when it comes to schoolwork, when it comes to excelling my extracurriculars, all of these things. I was never given the chance to be mediocre. I was always pushed to be excellent in whatever I did. And I think it makes a big difference compared to a lot of my peers who maybe they didn't grow up in that same type of household. We also can compare this. In the book, he compared the culture to China, how the culture in China is very similar, where you are putting in a lot of effort and time into whatever you do. And you don't just stop when you are feeling tired or you're feeling like, it's not working well. You keep going and you are successful because you are someone who can persevere in the midst of those things. And I also was looking up Nigerian proverbs, specifically Yoruba proverbs because I am Yoruba. And I was looking to see if there are a lot of sayings in Yoruba that relate to this. And I found quite a few. One of them that stood out to me was, only the thing for which you have struggled will last. And I think that really stood out to me just because it's it just emphasizes the importance of people putting in hard work, and when you put more work into something, it's more likely to be successful in the long term. And that's something that I would say was very ingrained in me as a child. On the other side of this culture thing, I was also raised in Canada. So I have that Canadian culture or whatever that is, but I see it compared to my family members that live in Nigeria. I would say that I am someone who is very outspoken and I can challenge authority. Whereas in Nigeria, there's not really that culture where you challenge authority at all, I would say. So my parents and my school teachers and everyone, they encourage you to speak out, to correct them, to like basically speak, like challenge authority if you need to. And I would say this really helped me when I moved into the workplace or even at school, like higher education. And then I'm able to basically voice my opinion and be assertive about my beliefs. This is a huge deal and allows you to stand out amongst your peers. A lot of peers that I had in the workplace were also new immigrants, but they didn't feel the same way as me, and they didn't feel they could voice their opinion because maybe they grew up in systems that did not allow them or did not encourage them to voice their opinion. So I was that girl who was always like, manager, I don't agree with that. CEO, I don't think that's right. Boss, I don't think that's right. And my coworkers would be like, oh my gosh, Reni. But it helped me stand out because I always had an opinion about things. And again, you can see by my track record, I was promoted quite a few times because I was very vocal and never scared to voice my opinion. So that's a second privilege or advantage that I think helps me get to where I am today. The next thing that I'll focus on is schooling. So school, in the book, Malcolm Gladwell actually spoke about how when we go to school, most of us are on the same playing ground. Whether you are someone who is low income or high income, you are mostly all on the same, You are all on the same footing when you start off, and most people score very similarly. The thing that actually differentiates us is the amount of time that we spend in school, and not just during the school year, but during summers. The real difference between me and a lot of my peers is that my parents were able to send me to summer camps that had an educational focus. And I think it really did impact me for the better. There was a study that low income kids often were testing higher than higher income kids in June by the end of the year. But then when it came to the following September, when they were coming back from summer break, they were much lower than their higher income counterparts. And the reason, when they analyzed it further, the reason for this was because the higher income students were studying all throughout summer, not studying, but like basically learning throughout their summer. Maybe they went to an educational summer camp. Maybe their parents gave them books to read, different things like that. Whereas a lot of the lower income children, their parents weren't able to be there to make sure and monitor them. So they were just having fun during summer, which is great, obviously. But in order to not widen that gap during summer, you have to continue to keep your kids on that same level by educating them year round. We also see the big difference with kids who went to school in Asia, where their school years can be over 220 days, I think it was. Whereas in Canada, US, the school years is about, I think it's 198 days. So there was a big difference. And although those 30 days may not seem like a lot, by the time you add 30 days over, say, 15 years that you're in school, it does add up. And students in China, Japan, and I think it was Korea test much higher overall when they graduate than students in Canada and the US. And it's simply because of the sheer amount of hours that they're putting into their work. So again, I would say I benefited from this cumulative advantage simply because I was able to go to summer camps and soccer camps and all these things during summer, which allowed me to put more time in and score very high on tests because, I was putting more time and effort in during while other people were resting. My parents also took it a step further, and they were able to send me to this math camp that I went to on Saturdays as well. So there was a lot of school that I did throughout my elementary school, middle school, high school, and it did serve me pretty well in the long term. And the reason that's important, you may think, okay, who cares? Like your school doesn't really matter, but because I was able to score high in middle school and high school, then I was able to go to a great university, which then allowed me to get a great job from there. So I think it all does impact one another. Maybe not so much in Canada, but I think in the States, it does have a big impact. Like the grades you get in high school may be the difference between going to a community college and a college versus I don't know the difference, but it may impact the level, and the education you get at those different schools may be very similar, but it's the perception that people have of those schools that can harm you or help you when you go to university. When you graduate and go to the real, quote unquote, real world or workforce. So I think it does have an impact, but that's just me. Let me know what you think if school actually has an impact on you long term. Okay, next let's go into the big one, and one that many of you can already, like I've spoken about pretty often, but socioeconomic status. Socioeconomic status has a big impact on who you are as a person. As I said, my parents were working class slash middle class when I was growing up. So I'd say started off working class, moved up to the middle class as I got older. And it does have a huge impact on who I am as a person. And I would say this is the biggest one that helped me like do things like buy my first house, do things like, a lot of things where I was given just because my parents were financially stable. So them being financially stable allowed me to not have to worry about money growing up, which is a huge burden that a lot of children and young adults face. I didn't have that burden, which allowed me to focus on things like my passion projects, or allowed me to try different things. And my parents always encouraged me to try different things, try different sports, change your mind about this, change your mind about this. Like, as you know, if you know me, I have changed my mind about so many things, my career, literally everything. I changed my mind a lot. And it's because I was given the ability to change, or I was encouraged to change my mind. Whereas if you're in a bit of a more tight financial situation, it can be hard to change your mind. You can't just go to school for 2 years and be like, I want to switch my degree, and then maybe start from first year again, because maybe the money isn't there to do that. So I'm very fortunate to have been given this ability to choose. Another thing that them being financially stable or in this middle class range gave me was the ability to travel. And again, I have the Canadian passport, the British passport. So I was able to travel to so many countries around the world. Right now I've been to 30 countries, and that really just gives me the ability to learn about new cultures, be more cultured in general. I've been to so many countries. I've traveled solo. Like I have a vast variety, I know a lot about the world and different people, and it allows me to interact with other people very well as well. Also, just being in Canada, I'm in a very multicultural space, so I'm able to relate with a lot of different cultures, where I feel like people who are born in other countries don't have that ability, and that helps you in the business world, definitely. And it helps you in so many facets of your life, just having a broad world view. So I will say that is another perk, and something that I'm very grateful for as well. Another thing that them being in this middle class range allowed me to do was to play competitive sports. So I've been playing soccer since I was 4 years old. I played soccer from the age of 4 till the age of 18. And I was able to play at a pretty competitive high level just because my parents were able to afford it. This is not something that is a cheap sport to do. I was thinking, my sister and I were talking about this recently, and we would go to the States like twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month, just to play some different tournaments. And my parents I would have games twice a week, sometimes in like places that were an hour away from my house, half an hour, 45 minutes. And those would be 6 p.m. games. My parents would leave work, drive to us, drive me. Like, I always just think about it. I'm like, wow, thank God my parents were able to do this for me, because it really did help me learn the value of teamwork. It allowed me to just be great at soccer. It allowed me to do so many things, and I'm very grateful that they allowed me to do this, and they were able to do this, because it definitely helped. My sister was even able to go to school with a huge scholarship simply because she played soccer and she was excellent at soccer. So this is one of the perks that they have also given me just by virtue of their socioeconomic status. Another thing, the biggest thing, would be my parents were financially literate. They knew about investing. They knew about real estate, or they learned as they went along. They knew about so many different things, and entrepreneurship. Like, they knew so many different things, and they were able to teach my sister and I those things, and that really helped. Obviously, right now I create content around financial literacy, so you all know that it definitely had a huge impact on me, but they were teaching me since the time I was very, very young. It allowed me to not make the mistake of getting into credit card debt when I turned 18, when the banks are pushing credit cards on you. It allowed me to do so much. Like, I can't say how grateful I am. I had savings by the time I was 18. Like most people start at 18 and start saving. I had savings even before that. They taught me how to invest when I was 18. That is a huge perk that I cannot underestimate the value of at all. Like I was given the ability to invest, and time in the market is the best thing ever. So I've been investing since I was 18. Cannot say enough good things, and can't say how grateful I am to have been given the gift of financial literacy from the time I was very young. In that same realm, I was encouraged to buy my first house at the age of 23. And the reason that I was able to do that again is because my parents had also bought their first houses and multiple other houses. So they knew how to advise me properly. If my parents had never bought their first house, they would probably not encourage me to buy a house when I was 23, just because maybe they had misconceptions about home ownership or different things like that. So I'm very grateful that I had them to tell me and encourage me, because I wouldn't have bought it if they had not told me. Another thing, I'm able to live rent-free with my parents because they are financially literate and they have, they're in that socioeconomic status that they do not need their kids to help provide for them. So obviously I'm so grateful because rent is expensive in this country. So I'm very grateful that I'm able to live with them rent-free, and my money goes towards my future and investing for my future rather than paying $1,000 plus in rent. One thing that I have not mentioned, but I think is very important, is that my parents are lawyers and they know the importance of networking and relationship building. So they were able to impart that on me. And even before I went to business school, my parents had basically told me about networking and the importance of it. So they were able to teach me about different things professional wise, which if my parents were not this way, maybe they were working other jobs, maybe they were working retail jobs, for example, they may not have that same skill set to teach their kids about how to be professional. And I really do think that it helped me long term. Like they were able to tell me they were able to teach me so much, how to send an email properly, how to do so many different things, how to interact with your boss, how to do your first review with your boss, how to interview for a job, for a corporate job. So many different things they were able to teach me, and I do not take it for granted at all. The last thing this video is getting a little bit long, so the last thing that I'm going to focus on is the time of birth and the time that I was born. So you may think like, okay, Reni, what does that have to do with anything? But it has a lot to do with the success that you have in this world. The time that you were born, I'm not talking about like astrology wise, I'm talking about like the year that you were born, for example, has a big factor to play in your success. If you look at the 3 greatest minds in computing, Bill Gates, Bill Joy, and Steve Jobs, so Apple, Microsoft, they are all born within 6 months of each other. And that is not a coincidence at all. When we look at it in depth, Malcolm Gladwell looked into it in depth. If you want to read it, you can read the book. But if you look into it in depth, those people all had things in common, and they were all born within those 6 months. And the reason that's important is because when computing became a big thing, the people who were able to take advantage of it were the people who were in that age range, right? So they were at the age where it made sense for them to to build a company relating to XYZ. Maybe they were freshly out of university. Maybe they were freshly out of university. They were at that age where it made sense. Malcolm Gladwell explains it way better than I could, so make sure you read the book. But from my point of view, I started my content creation journey in 2020. And I was born in 1996, meaning that I am a zillennial. So I am on the cusp of being a millennial and a Gen Z-er. So I was basically born with technology. Maybe I had a few years without it, but for the most part, I was born with technology and I've always been around technology. So when COVID hit in 2020, I feel like I was at the perfect age to take advantage of the content heavy market that we were in. Like because everyone was at home, content creators started booming at that time, and the financial literacy space also started booming at that time. So I feel like if I was 30 years old at the time, I wouldn't have taken advantage of it because I may have other responsibilities. I may maybe I didn't grow up on the internet as much. So, I may not have taken advantage. Or if I was born, maybe I was 18 years old at the time, I also I'm just in school, maybe it's not time for me to start a content thing, blah, blah, blah. But I was at the age where I had graduated a few years prior. I had enough money to pursue content creation if I wanted to buy equipment. I feel like I was just at the perfect age. Like people in that 3-year age range around me would be the perfect age to start a content creation thing when COVID hit. So I don't take that for granted. I feel like this career that happened to me was a direct result of great timing, and I was born at a good time. So yeah. If I think about it, I also think that this is a time to take advantage of the different technologies that are coming up, like cryptocurrency. So I feel like just like in the Industrial Revolution time, if you look at I think it was 10 richest people in the history of the world, I think the majority of them were born during the were around the age 20 to 30 at the age of the Industrial Revolution. And then they all took advantage of it at that time. So I feel like we are going through something similar with this Web3 crypto thing. And I feel like at this age, we're at the perfect age to take advantage of it and not get left behind. And yeah, so I don't know, take from that what you will. I feel very grateful and blessed for all of these privileges. And again, I'm not saying any of this to brag. I'm just telling you why I am where I am. And I hope this encourages you to also reflect on why you are where you are and the privileges that you have. And also understand that just because someone else has all these privileges, it does not mean that your hard work is not important. It just means they may have a little bit of a head start, but I still encourage you to work hard. I am working hard to reach the people who were even more privileged than I am, right? So yeah, that's the video for today. I hope that you liked it. I know it's a bit different than what I normally do, but I hope that you enjoyed and that you took a little bit of something from it. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button. It lets me know that you like this kind of content and you want to see more of it. If you didn't like it, well, keep that to yourself. I'm joking. Just comment down below and let me know what you want to see next from my channel. And yeah, that's about it. If you want to read the book, link is in the description, or you can read it on Libby, which is a free app for Canadians and people in the US. So thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.